Hi, I'm Eric. This is the Long Box Review comic book podcast, and today I am very delighted, ecstatic even, because I have on the show one of my oldest friends, in real life friends. You know him as Mr. Oddfellow's Thoughts, but I just call him Travis. Hey, Travis, how you doing?
Hey, I think most people call me Travis most of the time, especially these days.
Folks, Travis is here. First time that we have been talking about comic books. Well, you were on my 15th anniversary episode last year.
Right.
Anyway, and before that, I can't even remember the last time you were on an episode. It's been a while.
It's been a long while.
Yeah.
Like it had to have been some Eisner thing or something like that. It feels like
one of those old breaking news episodes that we used to do.
Yeah.
Probably. And those we haven't been doing those at least probably 3 years or more.
Easy. Yeah.
But Travis and I have been talking. We actually talk almost weekly while we play City of Heroes. But we don't usually get to have an opportunity to get together or see each other face to face digitally, as it were. But this has been a long time coming. Today we're going to talk about Hellboy: Seed of Destruction, the first Hellboy miniseries. I read it in a trade paperback collection. As Travis pointed out before we started recording, it had a sticker on the cover advertising the Hellboy 2 movie, the Gold Army or Golden Army?
The Golden Army.
The Golden Army, yeah. Yeah. And so we were also talking about, well, when did we get these? Because I bought this trade. Actually, I bought the first 2 trades, Travis, when we first started talking about, hey, we should get together and talk about Hellboy, because Hellboy is such a something that you love so much. Because you've been collecting for a long time. Did you figure out when you first started collecting or buying Hellboy comics? Not really.
Yeah. I'm not sure. And part of it is because the way the books used to be released, they used to be released in like little miniseries chapters that were called something. Like it wasn't like it was simply Hellboy, or it wasn't simply BPRD. It was Hellboy, the Spanish Fly. And if you opened up the series inside, it would have an actual number, like this is number 15, 16, and 17 in a series. But on the outside of it, and any way you collect it to try and read it, it would just have that, that subtitle. It wouldn't tell you what order you were supposed to be reading stuff in, because by and large, it didn't really matter so much. At least for most of the Hellboy stories within the Hellboy universe, you can kind of read them in whatever order you want to a large degree. So I think they didn't care. And then at some point in around 2013, they started not doing chapters for the main BPRD book. They went to a numeric system. So when you bought it, on the cover, it said issue 115, issue 116, issue, and they quit titling. It was all just BPRD, Hell on Earth, and then that number for 40 some issues or whatever.
Interesting. I didn't know they. Yeah. So obviously it proved to be a successful series, BPRD at least.
Mm-hmm.
And was there? I don't know this. Was there a Hellboy ongoing series as well?
No.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, if you look on the inside of a lot of those issues, it'll tell you what number it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's number 1 of Hellboy 1945. But on the inside of it, it will tell you that it's issue whatever.
Interesting.
Which is kind of, like I said, if you were trying to get the singles and you were somebody who needed to read it in order and start from the beginning, it creates kind of a nightmare unless you have some sort of a database that tells you what it's going to be. Because I remember when I was reading it as the stuff was coming out, people, and I was still doing videos, people were always asking, well, where do you start? What's first? What's, second or whatever? And I'm a big just jump in kind of a person. And there was some pushback on that as the internet is. No, you have to start at the beginning. And I disagree. I disagree, especially with the way this format is written. Yes, there are little things you would know if you read the first stuff versus the other stuff, but most of the time those stories are about the story that's there. So
yeah,
we'll get into that though.
All right. But speaking, when you just said doing video, so I referred to you as Mr. Oddfellow's Thoughts, and Oddfellow's Thoughts is your YouTube channel where you used to do on hiatus. What's going on with your comic book YouTube channel?
So I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm on hiatus again right now. The weekly jump on, talk about the books as they're happening kind of thing is a chore sometimes. And once it becomes a chore, because I am, if you watch any of my videos, I am clearly not here to pull in lots of viewers or cash or any of that stuff. And I'm super disenfranchised with the whole everybody who's trying to be an influencer and what is the popular thing right now, and I'm frustrated by all of that and kind of feel like I'm having a hard time finding what I think is my audience again. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I love talking comics, excited to be here, talk comics with you, and I want to keep talking comics. I don't think I can do the weekly thing. I tried it again because I'd taken a big break. I came back. I think I did it for about a year, and now it's been almost a year since I've done one again.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it's been that long, but I went back and looked. See, I don't know. I got to figure out something different. I like talking current books over talking older books a lot of the times because there's a lot of awesome stuff coming out. And I think it's the stuff that needs traction. That other stuff's already gone. So I guess some people are making money off trades or whatever, but I feel like.
Are you talking about our show today? What?
Yes. Yes. I'm talking about our show today. No, this is awesome. And I like this too and whatnot. I just don't want to spend my time talking about books that are sealed in plastic and a lot of the stuff that goes on with that. And I feel like if I'm talking modern books, I'm talking about people who are, trying to make something right now. And I'm always deeply paranoid about where the business is going, and is the model that I love going to go away.
Yeah.
Single issue, whatever. So I got to figure something out. So yeah, it'll be back in some form. I just haven't figured out exactly what that is.
Okay. You've given me an idea. We'll talk later.
Okay.
Well, my idea is very simple. Maybe you could do some of that with me, and then when you figure out what you want to do on your YouTube channel, then you can jump in and do that. But today we are here to talk one of those old comics.
Oh, jeez.
Hellboy: Seed of Destruction. This is by Mike Mignola, John Byrne, which I'm going to come back to that. Mark Chiarello, cover colors by Dave Stewart. Mm-hmm. And a logo, which I found interesting when I read the credits page, Travis, was done by Kevin Nolan.
Right. It pays to rub elbows with people, I guess.
Kevin Nolan, John Byrne. When I think of Hellboy, I don't think of those two names.
Sure.
Especially John Byrne. So when I opened the trade and I started reading this, I see the credits. I'm like, John Byrne, what? Because Mike Mignola is the name. I mean, his name looms larger in my mind regarding Hellboy than anything else. It's like I think of him as one of those creators. He writes, he draws, he inks, he colors. But that wasn't the case for this first miniseries. This miniseries that launched the Hellboy, ship extravaganza, because this thing has been going on since 1994. So this first 4-issue miniseries was published in March through June of 1994. And here we are. Oh my God, it's over 20 years later, or 30 years later. And, we got a Hellboy movie, within the last 5 years?
Yeah. something like that.
which apparently wasn't well received, as I recall. And the star of the first two Hellboy movies that were I was very entertained by them, Ron Perlman, he still talks about they need to bring us back.
100%.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do a movie, it's got to be him. His voice. I don't know how you read a Hellboy comic and not hear not hear his voice.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, and normally movies don't influence me in that way, but 100%.
I actually, that first movie, it's become one of those movies where if it happens to be on and I'm flipping through channels on or whatever streaming service I'm on and it's on, I'll stop and watch some of it. Because I just find it very entertaining. It just occurred to me I need to go buy those movies, buy them on disc, so I have them before they disappear from the streaming interwebs.
Sure.
So those are the credits. The trade that we talked about was released in October of 1994. So. That was really cool. So June, July, August, September. So 4 months later, they give us they issued the trade, which so because this was published by Dark Horse, and I don't know what because I knew of Dark Horse then, but I certainly wasn't buying comics from Dark Horse on a regular basis in the near mid 90s, and so to me that tells me that they felt that this was a pretty successful miniseries that they would issue a trade paperback so soon. Because it used to be that trades would come out 6 months to a year later after a series was done. So I think that's pretty impressive for this. I bought this trade over 10 years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but it was because we were talking then 10, 12 years ago, whatever it was, of getting together and talking about Hellboy, because I know Travis is a big Hellboy and I always get this wrong, BPRD fan. And so I was like, well, I want to read this. I want to get into it and talk with you about it. Just something that you love and something that's new to me. I thought that would be a very fun way to discuss this. So you did not read this first miniseries when it was released, right?
Oh, heck no. No, in the 90s? No, I wasn't buying any comics in the 90s.
That's right.
That was the big break in.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
I'm a poor person and whatnot, and I'm not buying. Yeah. And I would have been in the same boat as you. I mean, I knew Dark Horse existed because I remember back when we were still in high school, like I think there was like they would occasionally do like an Alien comic or something.
Yeah, they were the film property comic book publisher.
Yeah, no interest in that as a general. I mean, so I knew they existed, but no way. I can't remember when I picked up my trade. I picked up the trade first, and then later on hunted down those old comics just to have the originals. So being a comic book collector, I got the originals. I don't remember when I picked up. I think I probably picked up this trade around when the movie came out, around when Hellboy 2 came out, I think.
And that was what I say when I looked it up earlier.
I do not
2008. Is that right?
That sounds like it might be.
Okay, I'm gonna look. Keep going.
Yeah, so that's when I picked up the trade, but I had already been reading other stuff.
Yeah, 2008
from the Hellboy universe, just because I really like paranormal sort of stuff. The idea of paranormal investigators sounds really awesome. Then paranormal investigators who have an edge because they have powers of their own, or they're just as much cryptids as the paranormal stuff they're dealing with. That all made all of that stuff all that more interesting to jump into. So, and
that is why I'm just baffled at myself, because I, like you, I love that kind of stuff. So why didn't I gravitate towards this? And now that I've read this opening chapter for Hellboy, I was like, oh my God, the characters, the story itself, beating up Nazis, that's always a good thing. And just the Mignola art is just beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dark and moody, and all those inks. It's just like all those things mixed together. Is just like it's wonderful.
But a lot of the stuff you just talked about disappears as the book goes on.
Oh,
Mike quits doing the art.
oh, yeah, I knew that. Eventually, he does, right?
And there's always another writer on the book.
Oh, so what's his involvement in the later books?
Exactly.
Just his name?
Well, I think he's an idea guy. I think he has some ideas and whatnot. But there are a lot of other people who contribute a lot to the Hellboy universe, and I also believe probably do it better. Yeah,
Interesting.
don't get me wrong. The art in this is amazing because he really has his style. He's really cool. He does some other stuff. You know, you a while ago were asking me if I was getting the next Hellboy in Hell that was coming out. And I said, no, I'm not getting that. Well, the first Hellboy in Hell that came out, Mike did all the art in it. It was Mike. He did the whole thing. I'm down. I'm on top of that all the way. But when he's much more removed from it at this point, and then maybe that's a whole other different podcast. I'm not, for a while now, I have quit picking up the Hellboy universe stuff.
Well, and there's not a whole lot coming out though, right?
There's still Hellboy stories coming out. You know, they throw him in another time. They throw a lot of him around in the 1940s and the 50s. You know, when he's a kid and older, whatnot. I mean, lots. No, there's not a lot. There's nothing on the regular coming out and whatnot. There's really side stuff though. There's Frankenstein stuff, and all of that loosely fits all within the same world. But at one point, Mike had decided he was retiring from comics and he was just going to be a painter and whatnot. And he, in a very positive way, burnt everything down to the ground.
You mean within the Hellboy universe?
Yes. And then suddenly, after a couple months, went, whoa, maybe that's not what I'm going to do. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the exacts of it. And so then they backpedaled and it kind of like, you know, shoehorning stuff in. Now, some of that stuff is still good stuff, but it kind of lost something for me when they did that, as far as like the universe itself and whatnot. So now I'm really particular about what I get from that. Not that you can't go, like I said, because they always had a habit of going back and telling stories in between things and whatnot. But when you know how it all ends and you didn't really pick up the pieces, I don't know.
Okay. Wow. So what, I guess, burn it all to the ground, you said. So there's no BPRD anymore, right? That series is done and
right.
Okay.
And BPRD had more to do with the world itself and dealing with a lot of stuff. Because Hellboy disappears. I mean, he disappears for years and years and years. Hellboy is gone. And in the main comics, presumed dead.
Oh, wow.
So there's all these other characters are the ones that are trying to pick up the pieces and deal with stuff and whatnot. And in the larger story, stuff becomes cataclysmic. I mean, like the earth is cracking in places. And when I say cracking, not like small cracks, like massive. There are, I don't know, skyscraper size creatures scraping the earth in the process of, well, the stuff that's introduced in the books we're going to talk about. It's coming. You know, kind of a thing.
Oh, okay. That was one of my questions for you was like, what's set up here? Are we going to see this stuff down the road? So, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. So you've actually made me more curious and anticipating what's to come, because I still plan to read what I have, and most of my Hellboy collection. I have the first two trades. I don't remember what the second trade is subtitled. Do you? What comes after Seed of Destruction?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. But within the last 2 years, Humble Bundle did a Hellboy universe sale, and I bought that. So I got all these Hellboy stories and BPRD stories. I don't know when it cut off, if it was like up to date or something. I'll have to look at that and we can talk off mic, and you can give me a heads up. But now I just want to start reading, a collection, a story, because that's how Humble Bundle did it. They collected the trade collections, and those are the files they gave me, or that I bought. So I am now going to start reading those more regularly so I can experience the Hellboy universe.
It's cool. It's cool. All the side characters and all the. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's not either. That's just me and my personal. I'm not saying that after that and then suddenly the art's not good and the writing's not good or whatever. It lost something for me personally,
right?
After that point, because it was so huge. I mean, the stakes were so super high, and I appreciate how it came to an end. Abe Sapien used to have lots of little minis, and then they made it a regular series, and it ran for a while, and its ending was also tremendous, because Abe is kind of an odd. I mean, he's attached and not attached at the same time to what's the frogmen that are you see in this stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really interesting stuff, and they did an awesome job of kind of running its course and whatnot.
Yeah, and that element right there is just, that's what I'm, because we barely see Abe in this story.
Sure,
but he's very intriguing,
right?
As is Liz.
Right.
And obviously Hellboy himself, but Hellboy is telling the story. So we hear his inner monologue, or read his inner monologue throughout much of the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way that I feel like Mignola, Byrne, and Chiarello did a really good job of introducing us to the Hellboy universe in this first story, and just the possibilities that exist because of the way they told the story, because there's so much background, so much time has passed between when the story actually opens and what happens in at the time, modern times in 1994, because that's when this story is set,
right?
The majority of it. So anyway, yeah, it's just very fascinating, very interesting,
for sure.
Like I said, the first thing that struck me about this series was when I first started reading, was John Byrne scripted it, because I had no freaking clue that John Byrne was ever involved with Hellboy. Did you know that going into it when you first started, or did you, like you picked up that first trade and you read it and that's the first you knew of John Byrne being involved?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean that might have made me gun shy.
That's why I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's about the art, the storytelling and the art and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't know, in this first stuff, I'm not sure how much of it is Byrne versus Mignola. As far as the writing goes, I don't know. I don't know. Because I don't feel like it has, probably a whole other podcast.
I don't feel like
I don't feel like it has a lot of those. Like, yeah. I almost feel like John's a friend, and it's like, hey, I need somebody to look over this, so I'm giving you credit for having kind of, make sure the words are in the right place. I don't, you know what I mean?
Well, so this was one of the questions I had for you about this was, how much did John Byrne contribute to the overall Hellboy universe? Because I didn't look up the next volume to see if John Byrne was involved. I don't think he was.
I don't believe so either.
And then in this trade, there are the two earlier stories that were basically advertisements for the upcoming Hellboy Seed of Destruction miniseries. One of which was, where's my notes on this? One of them was it appeared in the San Diego Comic-Con magazine or whatever in 93 or 94, whatever that was. And then I forget. Oh, Comics Buyer's Guide. That's what it was. And so they're both scripted by Byrne. But what it says here in that first one, John Byrne, it says script and emotional support.
Right.
And then the second one, it says John Byrne along for the ride.
Right.
So, I think maybe he was, because what I found out right before we got on Zoom here to talk was that they were both part of the Dark Horse Legends imprint. And so Byrne was putting out books through Dark Horse, and Byrne and Mignola talked about doing crossovers with their characters, which is why we get the Torch of Liberty in that flashback sequence.
Right.
And it was like, because that was one of my questions for you, is like, there's superheroes in the Hellboy universe. That seems weird. But now I know why that is. And then Hellboy and some of the other characters appeared in some of John Byrne's comics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if they were both doing work for Dark Horse, and Mignola, is getting ready to launch this, and he did those first two things, and John's like, hey, or, maybe Mignola asked him, I don't know, but whatever, they decided to collaborate a little bit together and put out this first miniseries. So I just thought that was interesting. Again, it's like,
or the editors thought there needed to be a writer on the book.
That's true. And, you put John, I mean, even back in the 90s, you put John Byrne on a comic, and, a certain segment of we comic book readers would just buy it just because his name's on it.
By comparison, some of the later work that Mike Mignola did all himself, the first Hellboy in Hell, he did it all. He wrote it, he drew it, and whatnot. It feels the same as what this does.
Oh, okay, interesting.
To me, I don't. Like I said, I don't. I don't feel the Byrnism in this. It's been quite a while since I've read this, reading it again, to be talking about it. And, I'm probably much more watchful this time around for those things than probably what I was the first time I read this. And, I didn't really feel those. So my gut feeling about it is that they needed to have a writer on the book. But the writer, I don't know how much actually participated.
And until Mignola, quote unquote, proved himself, I guess.
Sure. How many writer artists in bigger name comic book companies were there at the time? Not many. And I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly where Mike Mignola was in his career in the grand scheme of things, when he did this. I mean, was he already I sell everything because my name's on it, kind of a thing? Was he as deep into his style of art? Because if you see his stuff at the beginning, his stuff is, more conventional, more like everybody else's, and then you kind of watch him move more into, I'm not doing comics like everybody else is doing comics. Yeah. I'm going to put my heavy ink, my heavy shadow, as it goes along. And clearly this is him in full on that. And I don't know, because I don't have a lot of his stuff outside of this kind of stuff. Like, I don't have his superhero work, maybe one or two issues here or there, to be able to go, oh, this versus the Justice League stuff he did or whatever. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know where he was at.
It's good you mentioned that, because I remember trying to remember if I saw his work first in DC Comics or Marvel Comics, because my introduction to Mignola's work was Cosmic Odyssey at DC, which then, I mean, his style was pretty similar to what I'm seeing here, right? And I think maybe it was Marvel first, but because he took over Alpha Flight after Byrne left. And that's when I jumped off the book, because it's like, oh my God, you go from John Byrne to this? And that's the interesting connection now that I'm just making, is that I was a big fan of Byrne's Alpha Flight, and then Mignola comes on, and now I look at it and go, God damn it, I should have stuck on this, because he really made that book visually interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Byrne didn't, but it was just so like completely different styles.
Right. I'm trying to remember when I quit getting Alpha Flight. I can't remember.
So yeah, that's just, I just find that fascinating. So yeah, but Mignola did some work for DC and Marvel. And then I think that's, he just like a lot of the comic book artists that creators that we've known and fallen in love with over the years, they get their start at the big two and then they go off and do this stuff. So I think he kind of followed that same path, and then he built, amazingly built this entire universe that has been publishing since 1994, and now coming back. The new Hellboy in Hell, has that come out or only an announcement?
I think it's only an announcement.
Okay, I mean, and then of course the movies. There's been at least 3 live action movies. The animated series. Have you ever watched the animated series?
Super cool.
Is it really?
Cool. Yeah.
I need to watch that.
Because it tells its own stories. It's not.
You're not adapting the published stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't. To me, most of it is not dipping into. It's way closer to like the comic book where it's just telling. This is another adventure that Hellboy got himself into. He went to Japan once, and this is the stuff he got into, and that sort of a thing. So,
speaking of the movie, that's the one thing I just generally speaking before we dive into the issues. Hellboy comes across to me because, like I said, hadn't read the comics. My first introduction to Hellboy is the first live action movie with Ron Perlman playing the role. And I think those are 2 different characters that I'm experiencing from the book and from the movie, because Hellboy seems a lot more calmer in the comic book in this first story than he is in the movie. He doesn't just come across, and I'm oversimplifying the character in the movie, but he's not just a lovesick brute, which is kind of how he's portrayed a little bit in the movie, and he's this impressive demon, but he's very vulnerable in this, in terms of getting, being able to be hurt. And he seems a lot more not that in the movie. I mean, Hellboy gets banged around a lot in the movie, but I never felt like, and it's been a while since I've seen the movie, so I might be not recalling something, but it seems like he gets banged around a lot, but he's never in mortal danger so much. But here in this story, there's a couple times where, if it wasn't for this thing happening, he probably could have or would have died. So I found that difference in the 2 visions of the character very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely he's more complex and not in both versions about different things, for sure. Especially in in the bigger picture. But yes, in this, he's not. I mean, it becomes a punch fest fairly quickly, but it's not the first. I mean, he seems to want to know what's going on, and I'm not sure in the movie he cares what's going on.
Yes, exactly.
And in the movie, he does feel like he's babysit in a different way than, well, in this, he's not at all. In the comic, right?
Yeah.
He's not, because the movies later on kind of somewhat seems to be set later on into some part. I don't know. But yes.
But they did use elements of Seed of Destruction as part of that first movie.
Sure.
But that begs the question, do you recall, does the second movie, The Golden Army, does that adapt anything?
I don't think so. It takes bits and pieces and it adds characters that were in later stuff. It puts them in. I don't know that it actually follows a particular thing.
Okay.
I think the director had his own story in mind for those movies, by and large. Yeah.
All right. But okay, so this is my first read through Hellboy Seed of Destruction. You just mentioned that it's been a while since you've read this story. So coming back to it all these years later, what's your kind of general takeaway?
I continue to really enjoy it. I think it's very cool. There's elements in this that go 20 years, which is awesome. And so and to remember, because see, I can remember bits and pieces of comic books. I don't necessarily remember where they came from. And there's shots in this that, that's where it came from. And it left such an impression that to this day, when I start talking about this stuff, it's one of the things that comes to mind. There's a character who that's like drinking coffee or tea, and there's a critter in the coffee cup and, in the teacup. And that sticks with me. And it has stuck with me for all this time. So when I went back to read this to go, that's where that's from. I mean, unless they use that scene more than once someplace else, it's one of those things that's always stuck with me. I also enjoy how very basic this is and how many elements that are in this that they run with over the years. The stuff with Rasputin continues to always be, the whole, you're not going to find this stuff out. It is kind of an albatross over Hellboy's shoulders for a very long time. And I like all those elements. And the fact that they continue out of like 4 issues, that there's these things. Always super intrigued by the elder god, or whatever you want to call it, because visually it's like 4 giant rocks hovering in space somewhere that are kind of like aligning. They're cocooned. Are they eggs? What is that? And that element is taken for a long ways. I mean, it's not like it's all the time, but it's there. It's this thing. Yeah. So it's lots of cool stuff. And if you get the trade, just the fun elements of this is the original Hellboy picture, which, looks like a design you would put on a pamphlet, but doesn't look like Hellboy. I mean, it's more like the name, and it kind of stuck in his head and became an intriguing sort of a thing. That stuff is, looking at some of that old stuff is fun, just to see what those were, and the little bits and pieces of him talking about, here I drew him with a coat, here I drew him without a coat, I like him with the coat.
Yeah.
Those elements. And the superhero team, we originally made them more like a team. They all had, same costumes, so look more like some weird version of Doom Patrol or something. And what worked and didn't work. But yeah, because what the original picture of Hellboy that was on the San Diego Comic-Con, right, was one of their brochures, is not, I mean, it's just by and large is not what we see. And the fact that writing Hellboy like on his belt buckle was like an afterthought. And then that, how creative stuff works, right? And then that spawned all of this stuff is pretty incredible.
Yeah, there near the back of the trade, there's this 2 pages of the original, or I guess 2 pages of the original sketches that he did of this character. You're right, that's exactly it. He just did it for a comic convention, wrote Hellboy in there, and then that's it was a germ of an idea that he kept coming back to and developed, like you said, the super team, and then he decided that he thought Hellboy looked better with the trench coat, and then that became this like the signature look. The trench coat, the sawed off, or what do you call it?
His sawed off horns.
Yeah, and that right hand that is like his super weapon, or whatever.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, this is a little aside. Whenever I think of Hellboy and his right hand, I think of that Nick Cave song.
Red Right Hand.
Red Right Hand.
Yeah.
No, I'm like,
for sure.
Is there a connection there? I'd sincerely doubt it, but anyway, yeah, it's just fascinating that how these things develop. And that first convention sketch was 1991. Mm-hmm. 3 years later, he's publishing a comic book based on this little idea that he just drew up for a convention. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say about Hellboy overall before we dive into the issues?
No.
Okay.
According to the latest report from falsifiedstats.com, 2.3 million new comic book podcasts are being created every single day. If you're looking for something a little different, then let me tell you about Mike's Comic Shop Roadshow. Mike travels the globe and visits comic shops along the way, like Murfreesboro, Illinois, and Liverpool, New South Wales, Australia. So check out Mike's Comic Shop Roadshow, a truly unique comic book podcast among billions of the same old, same old.
So I wrote up a brief summary for each issue just so people have a context if you're not familiar with this series. There are some spoilers just in case, but I try to avoid, big things as much as possible. And I try to keep it short because who wants to read a long, extensive summary of a comic book? Just go read the comic book. But there's some really cool things that I want to point out. I'm sure Travis has a lot of stuff that he is going to say about these issues. So I'll start off issue 1. In 1944, the Nazis, aided by Rasputin, although we don't find out his name until later in the miniseries, summon Hellboy to Earth. 50 years later, the adult Hellboy visits his human father figure, Trevor Broom, but it's spelled Bruttenholm, which, in my mind is Brutenholm, but apparently it's pronounced Broom.
Okay.
And that's from that one American soldier who does in the opening couple pages. He's
the narrator. Start out with right. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the one that told us. Oh, and it's actually pronounced Broom. Anyway, so his father, Trevor Broom, has been gone for 10 months on what is called the Cavendish expedition to the Arctic. Broom attempts to tell Hellboy of those travels when they're attacked by a frog-like human-sized creature who, okay, this is one of the spoilers, who ends up killing Broom. It's like right off the bat. Hellboy does kill the creature and later calls the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, BPRD. I thought I was under the impression that was a concept that came later. It was just like, no, it's right there, front and center. So,
yep.
And then later in a stately manor house, we see an elderly woman conversing with a shadowy figure. She is holding a teacup with a frog in it. And that's that image you were just talking about, right?
Yeah.
And for me, that's one of the most interesting images because it's so innocuous, right? It's just a teacup. Oh, there's like this cute little
frog,
a tree frog, right? But oh my God, it is a symbol of something much more menacing. So, and oh boy, I can't wait to talk about what that really ends up being. So I wanted to start off with this, Travis. This issue number 1, was according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, was released on my daughter Brittany's 2nd birthday. So I definitely wasn't at the comic shop buying this issue.
I guess that's a good enough excuse.
Yeah. The first issue cover shows an inset of Monkey Man and O'Brien, which was a backup series in this miniseries by Art Adams.
Yeah, wild, right?
Art Adams. I think I maybe knew of or heard of Monkey Man and O'Brien, but I didn't know who it was or what it was and who did it. Art Adams. And now I want to find if they've collected that backup series in some way, because it's not in the trade.
Right.
Damn it. This is not a Monkey Man and O'Brien episode, but do you remember reading those? Did you like that stuff?
No.
You didn't?
I mean, I don't know. I don't remember it.
Oh, sorry.
Like I don't really remember it now. And I had can't find them. I have the originals somewhere, and I didn't. And don't get me wrong, I bought those originals well after the fact, just to have them in my comic book collection at the time. I have not been able to find them, so I had to refer to the trade.
Begrudgingly.
Yes. I'm a floppy person. Give me the singles. But I don't remember that. But that was a long time. Like I said, that's been a long time ago that I read those.
Yeah, I'm because it's Art Adams.
Sure.
I'm really curious.
Yeah.
What this was. So, and I just have a bunch of notes, just things that jumped out at me, things I liked or didn't like. So, jump in here anytime.
Sure.
So I mentioned the soldier. It's First Sergeant George Whitman is the guy giving that narration to explain the stuff that happened 50 years ago from his perspective.
Right.
I was curious. Do you know? Does that character ever show up again? Do you recall?
Yes.
Good. That's good. I that's why I like this. I'm now thinking of Hellboy as kind of like this anthology series where it's not just sequential stories being told over time. I'm assuming they'll do like flashbacks and do a story set somewhere, back in the 40s or the 50s, like you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And we see these other characters that are just mentioned in some capacity, maybe have a larger role. And so that if that's true, if that's how Mignola has structured this over the years, that just makes it much more interesting to me too, because you get to inhabit or experience those characters more in later stories.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely how the Hellboy stuff is written. It's written where like they have a story of a particular time or whatever that they want to do, and that's what they do. It's not linear by any means. If they choose to, we want to write another story where Hellboy's a kid and trying to navigate being quote unquote a kid. What's it like if Hellboy goes to the circus? Those kinds of things. And when he's a kid, he's got a bunch of handlers around him. People in the military or ex-military that are part of BPRD that have been assigned to, or what's going to become BPRD, assigned to like keep track of him or whatever.
Babysit.
And right. And depending on what your views are of this little devil boy, kind of dictates how he's treated and what's going on around him.
Oh yeah.
Or as a young adult, or because he kind of goes through all of that stuff because his entire modeling seems to be, humans, so he has his drunken phases and his, whatever, phases and his issues with Liz and, some of the stuff. There's a lot. And they just hop around. It's whatever they feel like telling at the time.
Yeah.
Some of those are cooler than other ones, but some of them have to do with the greater universe. And some of them have to do, one of the things that I think is really interesting as a side note about the Hellboy universe is they deal in two different things. They deal in what we all consider like the vampire, werewolf, Wendigo, like the stuff that's part of our, part of the greater world's mythos, right? The monsters or cryptids or whatever you want to call them. And then they also have this, what Rasputin is messing with, these elder gods or whatever. I mean, I always feel like they're kind of, because of my own frame of reference, that there's some Chthonian sort of thing. They're that sort of there's these things in space that are or potentially in another dimension or space being pulled here. And you also have hell, actual hell. So there's Infernalist, there's werewolf, Dracula, name some
supernatural
monsters from some other countries that I can't think of off the top of my head. And then you also have this other thing. So there's a ton of different paranormal stuff going on. And somehow they managed to make that all work together. Because Hellboy's fighting this stuff that's much greater, but he'll be like talking about, oh, I've got these little saint bones left over from this other mission that I did. Maybe they work here, kind of thing. Because not all supernatural stuff works against other supernatural stuff, because there's these different layers of supernatural stuff. And it's one of the things that's interesting about the larger picture.
Isn't that, I mean, when he's fighting one of those frog creatures in, I don't remember which issue it is, but I think he says something like that. I had these something grenades. I don't remember what they were.
Right.
from a previous mission, and he used those. Fortunately, it worked for him, but he's like, I'll just use this and see what happens.
Right. Yep.
Well, okay. So since you brought it up, that's one of the things I really liked about this too, was that we are dealing with mostly Cthulhuian, Cthulhu stuff, elder god stuff in this, and Rasputin being quote unquote an immortal, and the supernatural powers, and I mean and different space stuff, because there's something in issue 3 or 4 that one page I want to dig in that with you. It's just like, oh my God, there's so many things that Mignola is playing with, and I am here for it, because again, I'm astounded with myself that I didn't get into this earlier, because this is exactly the kind of stuff I love. I know you're not a big fan of Whedon's work, Buffy and Angel and whatnot, but I mean, he and his writers and the actors and stuff built that universe, right. and did a lot of the same kind of stuff, dealing with the monster of the week. But then there's also stuff coming from hell, and there's Supernatural is another great. That's probably the better example, because the Winchester brothers are dealing with all these ghosts, and like you said, ghosts and werewolves and vampires. Right. But then things get bigger and bigger and bigger for them over the years, where they actually go up against quote unquote God. Mm-hmm. But it works. They made it work, and so I'm glad to hear that you say that Mignola is successful at balancing all these different supernatural elements, just for lack of a better phrase.
Right. Well, and like I said, it's impressive to me, because I feel like you could very quickly trip over yourself with all the elements. That are in here, and they seem to function, and they continue to work with all of those things, and it works. They do some smart things about it in the future, I think, in that they don't put too many, like this has a lot of different stuff in it. They don't do that a ton, where like if it has to do with a Wendigo or stuff, those issues have to do with just that. They don't get crazy into a bunch of other stuff all the time. Kind of a deal, but
just deal it like the comic book equivalent of the Monster of the Week episode for a television series, right? Yeah,
right.
That works though. I can see how that could work very well, and then it adds to the mythology of the series. So you're just making me so excited to read more. Let's see. Also, besides First Sergeant George Whitman, there's Professor Malcolm Frost. Oh, I just had it and I put the book down. That's so stupid of me. And Lady Cynthia Eden Jones. So she's like a medium, and senses magical stuff. Malcolm Frost is from the Blackfriars College, stateside, so he's an American. Lady Cynthia is England's top medium, it says. So I assume we're going to see them show up in future stories as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Because they very much intrigue me. So I'm like, let's have more with them. But of course, then like I mentioned before, the Torch of Liberty shows up. Very much a mystery man character. Sticks out like a sore thumb to me.
Oh yeah, it's the I would call it the one problem note in the whole thing, but yeah.
Okay, so I assume then that Mignola squashes any kind of superhero aspects in later Hellboy stories. Yes or no? Yes and no, I should say.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Because Lobster Johnson is part of the Hellboy universe, and he's like a 1920s, 30s pulp, the Shadow type. I mean, he's fighting evil, and most of that evil is tied to the Mignola universe, but he's doing it he's like the Shadow and Batman. And
does he wear a mask?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, definitely superhero tropes.
Right. But it's not anything like this guy, right? Who's wearing, he's basically
bright
wearing,
colors.
he's wearing long underwear and wears a trench coat over the top of it, right? He's not Superman in a trench coat. Yeah. So I don't remember them being in that. Now, I haven't read everything, so there might be something somewhere that I have missed over time. But yes.
Oh, no. I am now pronouncing you, Travis, as the Hellboy expert on the internet.
No, don't do that. Either that or make sure people don't know how to contact me. So,
okay. Let's see. I was really surprised that Dr. Broom doesn't last long in this story. I was like, he's introduced and now he's dead. What?
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You got to get that trauma in right away. Except they don't even address that. I mean,
exactly.
Really, yeah.
I was really surprised because like I said, we're getting most of the story from Hellboy's perspective. It's like he's writing a report almost. And he just doesn't seem to feel for the loss of his, Ursat's father.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, that's weird. Does any of this come back up at some point?
100%.
Okay.
100%. And that's different writers writing. Like I said, I don't know if that's a limitation of the person who's telling the story here. Clearly an active choice not to address that. But yeah, I mean, it's his dad. It's his father figure.
For 50 years.
It's the person that he respects more than, anybody else. And there's lots of stories that have to do with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good at least.
But yeah, definitely here. It's like, oh, well, I'm, writing him off and, writing my report and going on my way.
It's very surface level.
Mm-hmm.
This happened, but he has to deal with this other stuff. I get it. Mignola's trying to get us to the heart of the story, which is not that. It is dealing with what Rasputin is trying to do. So I can forgive it.
But there's also other weird stuff that immediately happens upon his father's death.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of keeps you from, spending moments shedding tears because...
True. I mean, and that's a pretty classic trope in adventure stories when you see a loss like that. Sure, I get that, but there's nothing in the story at all. So I thought that was kind of weird. Yeah, and BPRD, I for some, like I said before, for some reason I thought that was something that was introduced later, but that's in the first issue. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to finding out more about that and the the politics of it, the whatever they're dealing with, on in an administrative level, I guess, in some way. That frog in the cup, surprisingly menacing. It's such a surprising image. It's so cool. Right. Let's see. And then the issue ends with a BPRD report about the Nazis. Let me get to that so I can make sure I can. Yeah. It's like someone typed up it was typed up in 1948 by the God damn it, BPRD. and this is where they talk about Project Ragnarok. 2 words, Ragnarok, not Ragnarok.
Right.
We get let's see, what's his name? Klaus Werner von Krupt, who is the Nazi that has the eyepiece that has the Nazi symbol on it. And he's the one that we see in the flashback arguing with Rasputin. Because Ragnarok in I should just say Project Ragnarok, is the Nazis trying to summon some power that they can use to end the war in their favor. We find out later that Rasputin is using them and ends up summoning Hellboy, but not in the place that he does the summoning for the Nazis. Hellboy ends up, I forget now where, somewhere in England.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Broom and company, everybody that was mentioned before, that's where they collect Hellboy, and he becomes part of Broom's operation. There's also Leopold Kurtz, Ilsa Hopstein, Professor Doctor. I thought that was Professor Dr. Carl Cronin, who wears what looks like a gas mask.
Mm-hmm.
And we see those characters later. And then the name unknown, which is actually a picture of Rasputin.
Right.
I thought that was really interesting. And then, Travis, the next page, before we get into issue 2, it has this little one-page thing. It's simply titled Frogs. And it says, like, frogs, like snakes, scorpions, ravens, and black cats are traditionally considered harbingers of doom, witnessed by the following tale of the African myth about a frog. And it tells about how the frog got to God first and explained that man was not all that great, and that explains the hardships that man has to endure based on that description. But was this in the singles? Do you recall?
I believe it was.
Okay, because the reason I pointed out is I saw that and I thought, oh, that's cute. That's cool that we get a little mythology as a background for what the use of the frogs in this story. But then I expected to see other things like that in the other issues, but we didn't get that.
Right.
So I thought that was a weird omission or a weird inclusion.
Right. So they point out some symbolism, but not any other symbolism.
Yeah.
Like, this is how he wants you to see this piece of symbolism. Right.
All right. That's all my notes for issue 1. Do you have any other things that you wanted to mention about it?
Well, I think, you get that first issue, in it, you get Hellboy kind of explaining his modus operandi, that he gets angry. That's his go-to.
And his flaw, because he gets angry and he starts doing things he probably should be thinking about more. Right.
So that's, I find that interesting. That lays some pretty heavy groundwork, for what's to come to some degree. Yeah, I think that was the other, kind of really interesting thing about that, that first issue. Of course, with Mignola's art, it builds really, really great drama. The shadowy figures are just that much more shadowy, kind of a thing. Simply here's this quaint little lady having her tea, and then, like I said, that frog hanging out of it at the end of it. Just like, what? Kind of a thing. Is that symbolism? I mean, is there literally a frog, seeping in her tea, so she's drinking tea that's
right? Yeah, you don't know.
Frogs tend to be have hallucinogenic properties,
right?
And stuff. I mean, there's all this, what's really going on there. You get this guy that has come back from some fated journey to the Arctic, and you don't know exactly what's up with him, what's gone on. Yeah, there's a lot. It sets up a lot to get you going and get you ready for that next issue. And like I said, and then the whole, the Nazis are desperate to bring something up. I love those pages. Rasputin with the technology. Looks like a giant fluorescent tube of sorts, and he's got all this apparatus. They're turning on all these generators and whatnot, and it juices up all this power, and then it basically has a light bulb pop, and you think, oh, it's all wrecked. And they're all like, and all the Nazis are like, because they're like, kind of, I mean, we're coming towards the end, they're starting to get desperate, and they're looking for stuff. And this guy was supposed to be the thing that was supposed to give them the edge, and now they've lost it. And it's just this whole kind of, now what?
Yeah.
And then this supposed doom. Yeah, I mean, I think I should have wrote that down. In the first issue, do they show what he's tapping into? They don't, right?
No.
Okay. I couldn't remember if that's where they show that at or not. But yeah, so it's a cool first issue. It makes you definitely want to be jumping right into the next issue right away, for sure.
So the location of where Hellboy appears is, it says here, a tiny island just off the Scottish coast. And we see what look like what's the oh my god, what are those standing stones in England? It's not that, but what am I trying to think of, Travis? What are they called?
I mean, like Stonehenge.
Stonehenge. Yes. Yeah. It's similar to that, but there's these standing stones, but also later. Oh yeah, here the Lady Cynthia, the medium, very early. I mean, we're only just a few pages in the story, and we actually Mignola shows us ghosts, old religious. We see like a nun and a friar or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but my point is that ghosts are a thing in this universe. Just right off the bat, here we got this. Not only Nazis and Hellboys, but ghosts and whatnot. So, but when Hellboy appears, there's that. You see, I love that how you put that, the light bulb pop or something.
Right.
But and on that island, the Scottish island, there's this huge, powerful eruption that is shown, and then Hellboy is there. But the way in the background you see, I thought this is so cool. You see a cross with Christ crucified on it in the background,
mm-hmm.
which is, I mean, come on, that's
See, he pops up in a church, basically, an old Scottish.
Oh, you're right. That's what this is.
Yeah.
It is the ruins of an old church. Yes,
mm-hmm.
exactly. Okay. I was thinking more along the lines of this is like a Stonehenge, like
that's where the project is being put down at.
Oh, did I misread that?
I believe that the project is where
Oh, you're right. You're right. That's where. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, and part of the confusion also is because Lady Cynthia says it's happening here, and then she goes, "Oh," and then
it's also there.
It's also here.
Second center. You're right. I totally misread that. Yeah, the Rasputin thing is on the Scottish island. They are somewhere else, and yeah, it's an old church. You're right. Okay. By just the imagery of Christ, a crucified Christ, as Hellboy appears in this eruption of power. I just thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyway. Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Issue 2.
So in issue 2, Hellboy, Liz Sherman and Abe Sapien visit the Cavendish Hall and meet Emma Cavendish. She tells them of her ancestor. Yeah, how do you say that guy's name?
So it's spelled Elihu. I've in my mind as I type these notes, I just shortened it to Eli. So let's just call him Eli.
Cool. Eli Cavendish, who hunted for something in the Arctic, and that same obsession was carried on by 9 generations of Cavendish men, all of whom died. Everyone retires to their bedrooms, and Hellboy tells us about Liz and her pyrokinetic ability. He and Abe consult before Abe strips off his clothing and dives into a lake surrounding Cavendish Hall. We learn that Abe appeared in 1865. Hellboy calls Liz to talk about Emma's butler, and when Liz mentions the frogs, Hellboy confronts the butler, who transforms into the same creature he fought before. After killing it, Hellboy finds Emma dead, and in the same way, Broom died, and meets Rasputin, who tells Hellboy to kneel before him. When Hellboy refuses, he's attacked from below by tentacles, which drag him below.
Ooh, boy, that was bad writing. I used the word below twice in the same sentence. Anyway, so... All right. Do you want to talk about what your notes about this particular issue?
So I love this issue because, of course, we get the first introduction to the rest of Hellboy's immediate crew.
Yes.
Abe is like completely head to toe, trench coat, hat, scarf, goggles. He's completely covered himself because he's a fish man.
Yeah.
He's a fish man, and you don't know that. You don't know.
At that point, yeah.
We as the audience don't know. What he is, and they try taking his coat. You sure you wouldn't be more comfortable? No, yeah. I'm fine. The whole trying to keep it all under wraps and whatnot. And they try to have this conversation with Mrs. Cavendish, and it doesn't go real well. She seems a bit addled. She seems a bit shepherded by the the butler or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
kind of a thing. So clearly they all very quickly get a sense that that something's up. Something's not on the up and up. We find out a little more about the whole Cavendish curse, the fact that it has taken 9 generations of men, this crazy obsession. Like I said, it's all really, really cool, background to give us our story and whatnot. And then about midway through the issue, they go to their rooms and we get to see Abe, of what he actually looks like. A little brief thing,
all his glory.
Yep, a little brief thing, kind of fascinating that he takes us time to give us these like little stuff these are huge things going forward. And to put this stuff in as just kind of because was it needed to give us him in like a tube and a thing of water and this very, very brief 2-panel, this is his history, on we go, kind of a thing. and then just how much later on the creators take those characters and do some stuff with it.
So let me ask you a question about Abe Sapien, though. Like you said, he's shown in this tube in this sealed chamber at St. Trinian's Hospital in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. There's Abe in that tube, but there's a note attached to this tube that says Ichthyo Sapien, April
14th,
1865, the day that President Lincoln died. The fact that they mentioned President Lincoln dying on that day, and apparently that's, we don't know. Is that the date that it appeared, or when they put him into that room and sealed it up? I don't know. But obviously he's been around for a long time. When did he come out of the tube? Where did he come from? All those questions.
Right. But clearly he took the name.
Yeah, I know. Is that the only significance to the fact that they mentioned that this is the day that President Lincoln died? Is that he took that name, or someone gave him that name, just like Hellboy got his name?
I don't remember.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm treating you like an encyclopedia.
No, yeah, that's a long time ago, having read that and whatnot. But I do know we see that chamber again. There's
okay.
Because a lot of these characters spend time trying to figure out who they are, why they are, and what does that all mean. Abe has just as much of that as Hellboy does.
I found Liz fascinating in this because, again, my only knowledge of these characters are from those first 2 movies.
Sure.
And so this is not the same Liz that I had in my head. What Liz Sherman is. Obviously, she has the same pyrokinetic ability that she does in the movie, but she almost seems like she's the one in charge of this group in that scene when they get to Cavendish Hall. Did you read it the same way, or am I just?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think she gets the short end of the stick in these issues.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
In my opinion. But yes, she's the normal looking one. She's the
well, that is true.
She's the one that can just walk down the street, kind of a deal. Yeah, she's not like the character.
Yeah.
She has a lot of that trauma, but yeah, she's not. Especially what little bit they give of her, it totally does make it feel like that. Yeah, that she's more of the person that's.
Well, she's age checked here as 32, and that is not the character that's in the movies. That's not her age. So, but yeah, you're right. No, you're right. But it's that she's the quote unquote normal looking one. But Hellboy shows up. Hellboy, it doesn't disguise himself. So why does Abe do? It just seems kind of silly that if you have a Hellboy showing up at your door,
sure.
What is a fish man? What does that matter?
Maybe he doesn't want the attention.
Yeah. But those are the things I'm thinking of as I'm reading this. Like,
sure.
This is a deliberate choice. So why do this? And so I'm always looking for what's the angle here? Where's it going to go from here? But yeah, I like that scene where they're all sitting there talking with Emma Cavendish. And Hellboy just launches, and you don't know anything about frogs? And Liz is like, Hellboy.
Right.
And then redirects the conversation. And that's why I was thinking, she comes across as
she's the adult.
She's the adult in the room. Exactly.
Yeah.
What else you got?
So they once again have these little tiny panels that are just little frogs. It's everything simple and whatnot. And of course, then it gets, it gets crazy. I love the fight between that dynamic, stuff. You get a little more inner dialogue of, Hellboy kind of giving us a lowdown on what he is. This is the type of stuff I use. I punch with this punch because I don't really want to hurt people. If things get really ugly, then I've got the stone hand that he doesn't really know a whole lot about, even himself. You further get to know that even though 50 years have gone by, he doesn't, it is what it is.
He doesn't know who or what he is.
Right. And so I enjoyed that, all of giving us that information and whatnot. And then we start to see the beginning of Abe in his deep dive, deeply fascinated by this house that was built up high away from stuff. And the lake is it's slowly sank, and the lake is slowly moved up to where it's consuming the bottom of it's taking the foundation out of the Cavendish house, which is cool on a metaphor level as much as it is, this actual physical intrigue of what is going on. Those are great storytelling.
And we see that just after we hear the story from Emma about the Cavendish men. And so I'm imagining now that as each generation has died searching for the stuff in the Arctic, that the house is slowly sinking in year after year. Oh, that's great stuff. That had not even occurred to me. So that's awesome.
And then of course, you get towards the end of the issue, Emma's like gone. Like she's either always been dead and they're talking to, I don't know, or she clearly gets the suckers and is, been taken away by the fish guy. And then we get the big reveal of Rasputin, the great shot of him. Doesn't look a day older than he did in the 40s. And then of course, Hellboy is scooped up by some giant monster from below. Classic tentacles burst up out of the floor and suck him in.
Yeah, I know. It's such a great ending to this. It's like, boy, you really, you go from the ending on the first issue with the frog in the teacup, which is such an intriguing image. And then you get this great action-based cliffhanger of him, a Hellboy being dragged. And that last page is his red right hand. Sorry, I can't help it. Reaching up. And it's just, he's the way that Magnolia has drawn this with the floorboards and pieces of it just falling towards him. And it's all black. The page is black except for that little bit and the caption boxes, obviously.
Right.
Stand beside me. Or this is that Rasputin talking, I think? Yeah, yes. It is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stand beside me. Let me harness the power you hold unknowing in your right hand or die. And that's it. That's the end of what a great cliffhanger.
Right. And heavily implying that the hand isn't just a big club.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's something else. Maybe it's the important part.
Mm-hmm.
Hellboy's a vessel for that hand.
Oh, yeah.
There's just so many ways to look at what.
Yeah. And you know what? I still don't know what the significance of his right hand is. So, don't tell me.
No intention of it.
But is it cool?
I think so.
Okay, good. But in that earlier fight where the butler, who turns out to be one of the folks on the expedition that we heard about earlier with Broom, he's turned into the same, not the same, but he's turned into a frog creature that we saw in the first issue. And Hellboy's punching him. He's like, so for my second swing, I go straight to the big guns. Nobody knows where my stone hand came from or how it got grafted onto my arm. See, I didn't realize that until I read this, is that they considered it having been added to his arm, not that it was grown from, his own body. So it's grafted onto. Yeah. So that's very intriguing. But in a fight, it's better than a sledgehammer, he says. So, but this is what I was talking about. I think it was more maybe in the first issue than the second, but when these frog creatures, the tongue gets you and he's like, cause it got the left arm, he talks about how his left arm just goes completely numb. Mm-hmm. And he's fading, in one of those fights. I can't remember again which one, but, and that's what I was talking about earlier about, he's more vulnerable than I thought. Cause I thought he was a little more hefty, in terms of fight, but obviously,
well, he clearly is, because that tongue just like kills everybody else.
A typical human. Well, but well, also we do see them both times that we see this depicted. It's with elderly people. So I'm curious if that.
Sure, but they end up like husks afterwards.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
desiccated.
Not simply a matter of So I'm assuming that it's less to have to do with strength, and it has more to do with it's sucking life out of you or something. And so,
oh yeah, the tongue, yes,
yeah. So
oh
it's
taking
energy from him.
Yeah.
Let's
see if I have any notes here that you haven't already covered. Yeah, Rasputin seems to not care if Hellboy dies, but everything seems to be that he's been waiting for 50 years for Hellboy. It's a weird dichotomy in the way that Rasputin is talking, but we know from 50 years of history that he's been waiting for this.
Right.
But then we get a switch, a little change in the next issue. So that changes the story a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Anything else on issue 2?
Yeah.
Let's go to issue 3. Hellboy falls into the lake below Cavendish Hall, and Rasputin tells him that the serpent, Ogdru Jahad, wants to be free, and Rasputin, along with Hellboy, will do it. Hellboy refuses and fights another, more powerful frog creature who turns out to be... Oh, no, yeah. This is... Maybe I got this mixed up. Who turns out to be Sven Olafsson, one of the men from the Cavendish expedition. Meanwhile, Abe discovers 2 of the frog creatures carrying the body of Emma Cavendish into the water below the house. They are her remaining 2 sons, who were transformed by Rasputin, who are overcome by grief at having killed their mother. He then sees Eli Cavendish. Elsewhere, the fight is not going well for Hellboy, but it's paused for Rasputin to provide much-needed backstory to us for how he got involved with the Nazis and their Project Ragnarok. Right. Rasputin intended to use the Nazis' project to open the door for the serpent, but that plan ultimately failed. I'm going to come back to this with you because I was confused about some of this. So he went north and found the lost temple of the Ogdru Jahad and put himself into a trance that lasted until the final Cavendish expedition, where he was awoken by Broom. And it was via Broom that he learned of Hellboy, and Rasputin had let Broom go in order to lure Hellboy to him. But now he sees the power he wanted from Hellboy in Liz in order to unleash Sadhu Hem, who is left by the serpent on Earth. Rasputin offers Hellboy one last chance to join him, which Hellboy refuses. Again, Hellboy says no a lot to this guy, but he keeps coming back. Hellboy then wonders what's happened to Abe, and we see him at the feet of Eli Cavendish.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not into, while I have a very basic general understanding of Cthulhu mythos, I don't know. I didn't do the research here. But what I found was it seems like Mignola is just taking some general concepts from Cthulhu stuff and transforming it into, or adapting it into his story. In other words, Ogdru Jahad, I don't believe is part of the actual Cthulhu stories.
No.
But he refers to the serpent, which is also the 7 beasts. And then there's the, what'd I say? Sadhu, I don't know what it was now. Oh, Sadhu Hem. So in other words, there's all these names and for these things. And I'm like, I got really confused as to which thing he was talking about when. I mean, really, all that really matters is that there are these 7 beasts in those casket-like things that you mentioned earlier in this other dimension. That's what he's really trying to pull down. Oh, I think. Okay. So Ogdru Jahad is the collective name of the 7 beasts because they all have their own names.
Right.
But Saduhem is the connective point on Earth in the Arctic where the Ogdru Jahad could come through. That right?
Yeah, it's a door. Yeah.
Yeah. A living monster door type thing. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It just there was just too many things. I had to read that section several times to make sure I understood who or what Mignola was talking about.
Right. I almost feel like it's purposely not 100% clear because you're talking cosmic core, and most of the time cosmic core, if you truly understood what was going on, right, you would go insane and not be able to, if you could actually grasp truly what was happening, you would lose your mind because the normal mind can't handle that, right?
Right.
Kind of thing. So I felt like to some degree because the way cosmic horror and stuff is that it's vague. It gives you enough stuff there to know there's, something going on. I wouldn't even say it's Chthonian other than it's, like I said, it's cosmic horror. It's creatures either from deep space or another dimension, kind of a thing. And of course we have lots of tentacles in the actual comic book, sort of a thing. So
it's definitely calling back to Cthulhuian Cthulhu stuff,
right?
Whether or not it's, like I said, it's a direct connection or not. Because I think Mignola is smartly not connecting it to actual Cthulhu
right
names or things like that.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't know. So, but I did what I do like about some of this is that, he talks about the 7 beasts, and so the cosmic horror thing is here, but that's also from the Book of Revelation. So he's borrowing heavily on Christian mythology as well. So and I found out, he was raised Catholic. So he knows about a lot of this stuff, but he doesn't. As I read, he's not a practicing Christian. So that he felt like he was able to play with all these elements, the mythological elements, and not be beholden to presenting a certain viewpoint.
Right.
Which I very much appreciate. Ragnarok, again, I mentioned I wanted to come back to that. So he used that instead of Ragnarok, which is a Norse end times prophecy. In the term Ragnarok, the Norse one, it means doom or twilight of the gods, which, if you read Thor comics, all about this stuff.
Right.
But because I looked up on the Hellboy wiki, because I was like, why Ragnarok? Do those words mean something separately? What ties does it have to something else besides Hellboy stuff? And so the Hellboy wiki states that that Ragnarok means the fatal destiny, which, okay, but it didn't appear to tie into the Norse Ragnarok, except in the similarity of the name, given that it's Nazis and their obsession with Norse
Aryan nation,
the whole Aryan nation thing. Yeah, in other words, I was trying to find more meaning than I think is actually there for this. So it's supposed to evoke that, but it's really this thing that presented the world in this universe with Hellboy. So. Unless you know of something that I don't.
No. Nope.
All right.
It sounded cool.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. That scene with Abe where he sees the Cavendish brothers dragging their dead mother. I thought that was, I don't know. I thought it was touching.
Yeah. Well, they're not pure monsters.
Yeah.
They still have some piece of humanity in all of that.
Right. I just thought a touching moment in a kind of scary monster big fight issue, and it's with Abe, so that makes me want. Okay, is Abe supposed to represent a more emotional side of whatever story that Mignola's telling, and Hellboy represents more of the action, just the facts man type of character, and Liz, I'm not sure because. Besides, she appears to in this particular case to be sort of the leader or Ursat's leader. Like you said, she's the normie of the group. But after Liz gets or sees the frogs, we don't really see her until later in the story. So
right, she's just a big battery.
Yeah. But that's cool because when Rasputin sees, oh wait, am I jumping ahead? I forget now what I even wrote in my thing. In the third issue, do we get that big reveal of Liz? Yeah. So Rasputin has captured her and she's under some sort of trance.
Right.
And yeah, that's it. That's at the end of the issue. And so she's not just, because I when Hellboy was talking about Liz and, she is a pyrokinetic. Mm-hmm. If you've read comic books or even read science fiction stories, right? People who can make fire out of nothing, that's just a trope. But it turns out, and that's all I was thinking that she was. Mm-hmm. She's another superpowered individual that's part of the BPRD. But Rasputin sees something else in her. So that fire within her not only is literal, it's metaphorical in the sense that he can channel that power to open up that portal. Mm-hmm. So it comes from somewhere else. And so now I'm intrigued. In the same way that like Hellboy, how his right hand was his fist was grafted onto his arm. Is Liz's power, does it come from some other source that has, I don't know, some sort of meaning to it, I guess is what I'm looking for. So now I'm intrigued with her.
Right, because he implies that it's a living, breathing thing in and of itself.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And it needs the room to do so.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, see, in a typical setup where you got two characters. And again, I'm throwing in the movie stuff because Hellboy has a thing for Liz in the movies. I don't see that here presented in the story. It's just someone that he's known for a while, and she has this ability. Mm-hmm. But so typically you could see where you would put those or pit those two characters opposite of each other in a certain situation, and they have to deal with that, right? That's not what's presented here, but I was just, going forward, what are we going to see between Liz and Hellboy beyond, whatever relationship they have with each other? So, just about their powers, where their powers came from, what they're supposed to do with the powers, etc. Mm-hmm. But it's very intriguing again. Oh, one thing about this, Hellboy's getting the crap beat out of him by the frog guy, or no, it's the tentacle. The tentacle.
It's the big creature now that's got him.
Saduhem, right? So, yeah, he's not doing well. But he does. He uses the Captain Kirk strategy of talking himself out of the situation, trying to keep, pause things, and Rasputin falls for it.
Right.
To tell, and that's where we get that big scene of him giving the backstory, explaining why he was doing all this stuff.
Well, and you clearly establishes that he's Rasputin because he talks about the fact that he gets knife poisoned and thrown in the river. Which we all know that supposedly that's what happened to Rasputin, and then where he comes out from and how he kind of this is the silly thing that the Nazis are doing, and he kind of manipulates along with that, and it's never really part of their thing, but used all those tools for his own bigger picture because has seen this thing, this vision, what he thinks is going to happen, and his place in it, that he thinks that he can bring this down and he may annihilate everything else, but somehow he's going to have a place in it,
Yeah.
Not how that always works.
The hubris of humanity.
Yes.
But yeah, that scene near the end where he's telling Hellboy all this stuff and he's about ready to unleash the power within Liz. There's a full page of Sadhu Hem, and just the way, and then the following page with Rasputin and Liz. Again, the heavy inks, the muted colors, the blues and the greens that Chiarello's using. It's just wonderfully drawn and depicted here. it just really evokes that like cosmic horror, that darkness,
the ancient
oh my
something.
God.
Yeah.
And like I said, that panel with Liz and Rasputin, Rasputin's holding a sword with a bunch of cosmic crackle on it. And then also it's like the cosmic crackle is taking over the dark matter, or the dark energies taking over the room here. It's just so well done. All right. Anything else on issue 3?
And just that final panel. That final panel is really intriguing.
With Eli and
Abe like knocked out, or
he's collapsed at the feet.
He's got the old harpoon gun there. Old Eli, the old whaler, and in the background there's like a ghost of.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. Is that a ghost or is that a picture?
See, I think that's a ghost.
Because Eli's the ghost.
Right. But I think that's his spirit, though.
Then what's the body sitting in the chair?
The body.
Duh. I don't know. Okay. Well, so the thing is, I just question it because if the body, which I thought of as the ghost, then why have this other thing? It's just confusing if that's the ghost and this is the corpse of. Anyway, so I wondered if it was a painting for some reason.
I suppose it could be.
But yeah, the point here is that Abe is incapacitated in some way.
Mm-hmm. And Hellboy's desperately, gosh, I hope Abe shows up soon because I am screwed.
That exactly right. That emotional arc here of I need help, but my only means of help is unconscious at the feet of this ancestor. So,
right.
Yeah, it's just the endings of these issues are just incredible. I love every one so far. All right, Travis, I apologize because I think this is the longest summary, and you get it.
Okay, issue 4. Rasputin begins his spell, sending his and Liz's power in Sadhu Hem in order to open a portal for seven beasts of the is it
Ogdru-Jahad, I guess. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Hellboy is able to break free of Siv, and in the void, a casket of Ogdru joined together. I think it's interesting that you consider that a casket because I don't see it as a casket.
Oh, okay.
Watched by an alien crew who monitor them. Before the spell is completed, Rasputin is shot through by a harpoon. Hellboy sees the ghost of Eli Cavendish, releases Abe's body now that the deed is done. Eli calls out to Liz to wake up, and she erupts in flame. Abe dives down to move her away from the burning Rasputin. The flames alight Sadhu Hem, and it and Cavendish Hall begin to crumble into the lake. Hellboy stays below and fights Rasputin, who claims that this is not the end. Later, Cavendish Hall is all but destroyed, and the three compatriots talk. Abe explains that the ghost of Eli was able to reach from beyond the grave to exact his revenge on the serpent and Rasputin. As Hellboy contemplates Rasputin's final message to him, we see an abandoned Nazi castle, and in it, a chamber containing 3 of the Nazis who were part of Project Ragnarok.
Okay, well, let's start with the caskets comment.
Mm-hmm. To me, those don't look like caskets. They look like rock, like if part of a basalt column was broken off, but they're just giant, or they're, some sort of rocky cocoon.
Well, okay, cocoon's probably the better term here. Yeah,
because for me, casket, I envision something that has a lid, and I visually don't see that. I mean, they basically look like rock, like spikes.
Yeah, well, they're similarly drawn to those stones that we saw in issue 1 or 2 on the Scottish island. So you're right. Yeah, you're right. Casket was, I used that. That was the wrong word to use. So yeah, cocoon. I think that's right. And so, yeah, because they contain, these are the 7 beasts that Rasputin talks about. And so, obviously they have to be inside these structures, whatever they are, right? Because they're not just stones, stone pillars. So yeah, okay.
A great issue. I love the fact it opens up the giant splash page of Rasputin holding up a sword, basically the same equivalent that in the first issue we have him holding up that like metal tube.
Oh yeah.
The power's charging up. Of course, this time he's getting the power from Liz as he's getting ready to basically, drop hell on everything. Equivalent. I really like that opening page.
That's a great observation.
It's very dramatic as he's getting that power. Of course, we have him talk more about the fact that he's going to be fine, that he's bringing on this, new coming of man or a power on Earth. Get that great shot of this blast coming down or going up. I guess it's going up out of the Cavendish, hall picture there. That is, pretty cool as Hellboy finally figures out to kind of, shake himself loose as this, and we see those columns moving around and banging into each other. Clearly something huge and dramatic is happening as he's continuing to talk about this, this spell and the power that comes from that. And yes, and we get that one crazy page of aliens on a spaceship going, sector whatever, something's happening that's basically going to be it's going to end that dimension, and then it's going to end everything everywhere else. We better get on it. And that's kind of it. That's it. To me, that is like one of the craziest pages in comics, because it is so far outside of everything else that's going on. You're just like, what?
So I should have picked up on this. They refer to these as cocoons. So good call. Okay. But yeah, it appears like they're in some sort of vessel or control room. They look alien. At first I thought they looked like Abe. I thought, are these Abe's people? But I looked again and they're different. Similar, but different.
Yeah, Mike's way of drawing these kinds of heads, they look kind of like Abe. The frog guys have the same kind of sloped back.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I think it's a stylization of how Mignola draws a lot of stuff like that, I think.
Yeah, I'll just call him the captain of this group, or the leader of the group. Who would be mad enough to and he interrupts himself. Source: a power beam is emanating from the core world. Oh, he does call him captain. Is it Abjuda? Yeah, Abjuda Earth. Fools! Don't they know what they're doing? The 7 will smash their world to cinders, and when that's done, they'll spread their evil over all the known dimensions. No one will be spared. Okay, so I take this is we're talking about dimensional creatures, and so but this one page, bizarre as it is being thrust into the story like this, has just opened up the Hellboy universe, in a massive way.
Yeah.
Because it's, okay, sure, the evil, the Ogdru Jihad, or, in this other dimension, they're being pulled here. But no, there are all these other dimensions too. And this one, at least, is monitoring this great evil. And so, okay, well, I assume we're going to see them again. I hope. This is just awesome. All of this world building that's going on in these first 4 issues of the Hellboy universe.
Right. Yeah, he basically set groundwork to do all kinds of stuff.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
And that scene again that you're talking about, where the cocoons are coming together, the top of that page where it's Rasputin talking, and then there's this coalescing whirlwind, I guess, of power. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, does that, and all the Kirby crackle in the following panel? I mean, that's Mignola doing his best Kirby.
Yeah.
It's just, oh my God, dark Kirby, but it's just beautiful. And as the cocoons come together, boom, 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 it just gets, that's just so cool.
Because and as they're coming together, of course, we're getting a closer and closer shot with each thing, so it just intensifies that whole aspect of it for sure. And then all ends with a harpoon shot.
Yeah. Well, and okay. So we get so Rasputin's talking. We see one of the cocoons starting to crack,
right?
To unleash one of the beasts. Tremble all before the coming of the end of, and then he looks down. There's blood coming out of his mouth, and of course, he's been run through by this harpoon. That's just a great page turn, and then it's supposedly his end right here. So I thought that was a wonderful way to depict that. But so this is okay. Hellboy realizes, calls out Abe, but not alone, in some kind of trance, and behind him the shadows speak. Wake up, girl. And then Liz explodes.
Right.
And then everything. So this is where Chiarella's really earning the bucks, right? I hope. Is that, before we got all these blues and greens, and now we're getting browns and yellows, and all the blacks, of course, too. But that yellow color, evoking the fire, the light, burning away the evil. It just becomes all consuming as we get to that one page where we last see the tentacles, as Cavendish House is crumbling from above. That's just great coloring work.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you get that great classic, fight at the end with Rasputin, as Rasputin is still burning up, like literally burning, as Abe is throwing punches at him, and and the ultimate threat, you're not going to know. You're not going to know if you don't come with me, you don't help me. You're not going to have these answers. You're not going to know the real reason why.
And then Hellboy says, "Yeah, you're right." As we see his right red hand about ready to strike, but I can live with it. And then at this point, Rasputin is all but bones.
Right.
But he's still speaking.
He's still talking, yeah.
I will see you crawl before me. This is not the end. And this is his skull.
Right.
And Hellboy picks up the skull and says, well, it is for you, and crushes it.
Right. Smushes it with his hand.
That is awesome.
Yep.
And then we see Eli again sitting back down in his chair that we saw at the end of issue 3, right before Cavendish House basically collapses in on itself.
He's in the same exact position, but he's minus the harpoon.
That's right. And he's so
he's literally has his hand holding that harpoon, in the position, to me, of holding the harpoon that he doesn't have anymore. And I guess I didn't actually go back to look to see what the prior picture looked like now that we're talking about this.
I'm going to look at it right now. It is similar.
Not exact, though.
Not exact. It's but I think the angle of the panel, I think Mignola has changed that a little bit. So,
but he still is holding the same position. He's still got the same, like, whatever is in his other hand, and he literally still has his hand like it would have been holding a magic harpoon.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Yeah, and I didn't realize until I looked at this. The second image is I saw the what looks like a piece of paper that's been folded up. He is holding that in that first picture too.
Right.
Suddenly I'm like, what is the significance of that piece of paper?
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe I missed that earlier on, but anyway. One of the things, let's see, where's my note? Oh, yeah. So that the aliens, at the end, only one power, the captain says, only one power can stop them. The power that imprisoned them, the power that created them. Well, Liz stops them. Is that the power? Or was this another way to...
She didn't stop them. All she did was
prevent the door from opening?
Right. She annihilated the creature that was left on Earth, but she didn't take care of the cocoons. They're still banging around up there.
I guess what does stop them mean in this context? I think you're right. I think it is.
Sure.
Liz is not that, but the way because the emphasis on that, and then Rasputin talking about the power within her, and then what happens because of her, I was like, is there is there some connection there between those two things? But I agree. I think it's there's something else there. Well, is it the power behind help? I know. But it's intriguing again. So now I need to read on to find out what that all means, right? What connects all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you get the classic debrief of all of them after the adventure is over. Right? This is what happened. This is what I think happened or whatnot, and that's when we get that a flashback to obviously a piece of conversation we didn't see Hellboy have with Rasputin. Rasputin saying, basically, you're not going to understand this if I'm gone, and that you will crawl before me. Like, it's not over. This isn't the end, sort of a thing. And then, of course, it gives us the foreshadowing of maybe more story to come. Because at this point, who knows? Who knows whether there's going to ever be any more,
right?
Hellboy, this is written. But it leaves it with that, the old Nazi apparatus beeping and churling, and 3 of the people from the past, from the original Ragnarok project, seem to be either coming out of a portal or coming out of deep freeze.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that. How did you interpret that? Are they, because I can't tell if those are cracks in a chamber. That's a window to a chamber, or if it is that energy in front of them. Yeah, evoking a portal.
Well, because what makes it difficult is that on the bottom of one page they have a basically bluish, scene, some destructive scene. I don't know if that's supposed to be, and it looks like ice, because
ice
the color
snow.
It is. And the stalactites kind of hanging down all seem to be snowy oriented. And you have this black spot amongst this shut down machinery. Then you see the next page, which is still kind of that lit in blue, of like an electric box that's got a gold Nazi symbol on it, swastika, and a dragon, the crown above it. And there's a beep of like it gaining power because the swastika glows red. And then there's another beep. And that area that was black on the page before is this purplish, like, void. And there's somebody in the distance. And I think we are moving closer to that lens. It's not like they're walking towards us. It's we move closer to it, I think. Mm-hmm. This cracking lens, and there's those figures behind it. So I think they're frozen inside of aquarium or chamber, and they're being woken up.
But they're standing up. It's just a weird construction. If they were frozen to come back some other time, you would expect them to be either sitting or laying down.
And I'll be true with you. I can't remember. I know these characters show up in plenty of other stories going forward, but I don't remember the implication from this as to what how that works.
It just occurred to me, we don't know how much time has passed in between these panels, right?
Sure.
So this could be minutes, it could be hours. And they've woken up, gotten out of their chambers or whatever, and they're now in front of the window that they maybe step out of. I don't know. Right. So yeah, I'm overcomplicating it with that question, but it's a great scene to get someone excited about, okay, what happens next with Hellboy. And as you said, at that time in 1994, that we had no one knew. Was this going to catch on? Was it going to be successful? Were people going to want to read more? Well, we do know now, obviously, that they did. So,
right.
Again, I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to read the story that features these characters and what they do. Oh, when they go up against Hellboy, what happens there? And but okay, so here that begs this question from me to you. Mm-hmm. Do you recall how much of Hellboy versus the Nazis do we get? At least initially.
Oh boy. I don't know that I can accurately answer that. Okay. I mean, I know there are stories that have to do with that. And when you say Hellboy, you're asking me specifically the character Hellboy dealing with the Nazis. Because see, there's this whole other bigger universe and whatnot. Right. There's a lot more story that isn't Hellboy. That's the universe and whatnot. There are some. Lots. I don't know if there are lots.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to have this turn into always having the same enemy in the background.
Yeah, it's not a World War II comic.
Yeah.
So it's just one of the many, threats that are, out there, kind of a thing. But I don't remember it being the pivotal stories and whatnot. But I've read a lot more BPRD than I have Hellboy.
It still blows me away because I just always thought that you were Hellboy and BPRD collecting, and so
and see, I came to Hellboy through BPRD.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. I believe so. I mean, I believe I started picking up the odds and ends because I didn't know what they were. I'm going through solicits, right? And here's this paranormal, story about somebody fighting Wendigos or whatever. I'm like, cool, I'll check that out. And then, keep seeing the top in the Hellboy universe or the Magnolia universe. And I'm like, okay. And then start discovering that on the inside pages, it's telling me that this is actually issue whatever, if I wanted to read the other stories to get a sense of what's in what order. And then this kind of, to some degree, went backwards. I mean, I don't think I read much BPRD before I was then chasing down, of course, the Hellboy stuff, because it's all based around him. That was the original stories. And BPRD became an ongoing regular monthly series. He was gone by then. I mean, there's
how strange.
There's 50 more issues where Hellboy's not there, or Hellboy is like a brief couple pages of somebody remembering something about Hellboy, or I wonder where Hellboy's at right now. If he's got to still be alive somewhere because he was implied dead through all of it. So yeah, it's all really super interesting stuff. It's a really interesting world, and you go back and read these first couple issues and whatnot to see how much that's in this that is always kind of a lingering, haunting, the cocoons. It's all there in some threat or another over the greater world, even though they tell some smaller stories along the way. But that's, yeah, it's a cool universe. It's a super cool universe that I'm always kind of surprised that more people haven't read it, weren't reading it. Like I said, books still occasionally come out and whatnot. And like I said, I have fallen off the wagon just because my own, like I talked about earlier at the beginning of the show, my own personal, how I feel about it in comparison to having taken that long journey. And it kind of feels like it's over, even though that doesn't make sense because the story has always been told the main BPRD book was told in a linear fashion. Once it became the BPRD in Hell, that was told in a linear fashion. But they were always telling stories of the past. They were always bouncing back to something else. All the little miniseries have always been. It's never been what's happening now. It's always been, this is another little piece to fill in of what had happened that puts us at the end, kind of a thing.
Well, like I've been saying this entire episode, I definitely am on the Hellboy universe bandwagon now, because this introduction has just been a delight.
Yeah, and I don't know what the Hellboy in Hell, the new one that's coming out, or as this is recording and whatnot, what that's going to be like. The 10 issues, I believe it was 10 issues, the Hellboy in Hell, the first one that's all Mignola all the way through. It was super cool. Because you get to see him in his origins place. Because he is from Hell. You get to see him in his origin place, and it's really interesting, the whole dynamics of the politics that are there and what it means for him to be back there, and his hand and all of that is.
So wait, is Hellboy in Hell the first series? Is that where we get the explanation of just his right hand?
No.
Oh,
no.
That comes before that.
Yeah. There's just more implications about, it's somebody else's hand. That's all I'll say. It's somebody else's hand.
Oh, say no more. Say no more.
Yep.
All right. Oh, yeah, I see now. Grafted. I was thinking, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it's not a cyber hand. It's not like it's a... Yeah.
I was thinking that stone, or that whatever that is, was put around his arm, but it sounds like it was whatever his arm was before was removed, and that was attached to his arm.
Could be.
Could be. Sure, now you tease me. All right. Well, okay. So, anything else you want to say about either issue 4 or the series in general?
If you got this trade, of course, there's those little stories that were like little tester stories, at least in mine. I don't know, your version has that too.
Yep.
And those are kind of interesting. Little, like, if you're really interested in like, how did this all come about? Those are interesting stories because those were written before, obviously, the full comics were written. And one of them comes across as really kind of pulpy. To me, there's one of those two stories, I can't remember which one it is, that is, I don't know, it just felt way more pulpier. He has the girl on his arm at the end of it, and that is so not what the comic is.
Right.
It's not. And I mean, I could not tell you if there's a single issue of any of the Mignola universe that has him kind of with the girl on his arm at the end. It's just, that's so, like I said, that's so pulpy. I mean, that story to me felt like it could have been right next to a story of the Shadow, right next to a story of, was that guy's name the Phantom, the guy that's dressed in purple that runs around in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that. It so feels like that. And that's ultimately not, I mean, other than having the Nazi head in a jar, and the monkey, because he likes monkeys.
Brutus.
Yes.
And the brain in a bottle is Herman von Klempt, Professor Dr. Herman von Klempt.
Yes.
So the original version of that guy, yeah.
Right. So it's like I said, the damsel in distress. I mean, that's not what the book ends up being, but it's just kind of interesting to see that kind of initial.
Yeah, the evolution.
Right. And the other story with the dog that turns into the big giant monster that he has to fight, that's, to me, is much closer to what we end up getting, because lots of times Hellboy will be someplace, something seems simple, you go to pet something or you feed something, and then all of a sudden it's a giant monster that's got him by one arm and pounding him all over the place, kind of thing. This sometimes is the case. But it's not those two things, as far as like if you got the trade, those are interesting little tidbits of how did this character develop that were kind of fun to see.
And you also, earlier, you made some comment related to Doom Patrol. I think in relation to
the team that
he originally, that was his original concept of what Hellboy was going to be, was Hellboy was going to be part of a team.
Right.
But you mentioned Doom Patrol, and I read that story that we just mentioned with the brain in a bottle and the gorilla, and I'm like, dude, that's Monsieur Malat and who am I thinking of?
Oh God, I'm drawing a blank now too. That you said that.
Anyway, that's Doom Patrol right there.
Yeah, that's villains for sure.
And speaking of the earlier versions of Hellboy, these two stories, the caption box under the title is "World's Greatest Paranormal Investigator," and he obviously decided to make some changes to or tweak the concept. Speaking of, not only do you get those proto stories of Hellboy, but you also have a little gallery section here. Featuring the art of Simon Bisley. Who else here? Mike Allred, Art Adams. We mentioned him before.
Right.
Frank Miller. And, these are all great, but I look at Frank Miller and it's like, it's so Frank Miller. It's so, oh God, what is Jesus Christ, what is the name of that black and white series he did?
Sin City?
Sin City. This is like Sin City in Hell or something,
Yep.
And then who's the other? I'm missing somebody here. Oh, Fred Blanchard and Gary Gianni all did pinups here, and they're all wonderful and all a little different. I just that last one, that Gianni one, really to me evokes. Oh my God, I'm so bad with names. I can't remember names anymore, Travis. Never mind. I can't recall who it is.
Yeah, none of those people are people I associate with Hellboy, but yeah, they're interesting.
I wouldn't mind seeing an Allred Hellboy story.
Yeah, I'm not nothing against it. I'm just saying those are just not people that
sure
that I associate with that. But yeah, especially Simon Bosley, I really don't associate him with. But that's just wild. But
okay, so in the very back, there is an advertisement for Hellboy by Mike Mignola, and we get the Seed of Destruction. Oh, with John Byrne, it says. Yeah. And Wake the Devil, which I assume is the second volume?
I'm not sure.
The Chained Coffin and Others, The Right Hand of Doom, Conquer Worm. Yeah, Conquer Worm. And then there's a bunch of BRPD stuff listed and other things you can buy that are Hellboy related if you wanted more merch. So, anyway, okay. Finally, I have a bit of trivia here about the work. In 1995, the trade collection that we're using as reference here won the Eisner Award for Best Graphic Album Reprint, and Mike Mignola won for Best Writer/Artist. And would you like to know who his competitors were for that award that year?
In 95?
Or could you guess? Could you?
Oh, not in a million years.
Anybody. Just give me a name.
I have no idea.
Okay.
No idea.
Well, you won't be surprised, I don't think. Paul Chadwick for Concrete. Killer Smile from Dark Horse. Jason Lutz for Jar of Fools, Penny Dreadful. Terry Moore, Strangers in Paradise.
Wow.
Brian Talbot, The Tale of One Bad Rat, also from Dark Horse. Dark Horse had a great year for the Eisners.
No kidding.
3 of the 6 nominations in this category for Best Writer-Artist. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Mignola also won for Best Serialized Story with Hellboy, Wolves of St. August. Do you recall that story?
I do not.
Okay. This was presented in Dark Horse Presents, issues 88 through 91.
Yeah.
Do you have Dark Horse Presents?
I don't have the original run of it because there was a bunch that was then. And then sometime in the 2000s, I want to say, they started it up again. And I collected that for quite a while. And it would occasionally have stuff like that in it. But you get you get 2 pages of what would ultimately be like a 10-page story. So you'd have to get a year's worth of comics to get a full story, and it'd be 7 creators with 7 different bits and pieces and whatnot, kind of a thing. So instead of it being an anthology where like this issue was this person's story and this issue is this person's story, it was like these 2 pages are this person's story, these 2 pages are this person's story. Made it really hard to, to stick with some stuff, because some of it will be stuff you'd be interested in. Some of it will be like, yeah, that's not my taste. And you're buying a lot of comic for, and they were expensive comic because they were a square bound, thicker. I'm not saying you're not getting your money's worth, but they were definitely, in comparison to,
it was a commitment.
20 or 22 page comic. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, that is all I have for Hellboy Seed of Destruction. So, thanks again.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been a long time coming. Like I said, It's been 10 to 12 years when we first discussed this. I don't know why it took us this long to get together and talk about this stuff, but it's been so nice to talk to you face to face again, and we just need to do this more.
For sure.
Okay, good. I was hoping you'd say that.
maybe it not take a year.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I have an idea, so we'll talk off mic about that.
Okay.
Are you interested in giving out your socials or any kind of contact information for people, just in case?
Well, if you want to go look at old content and whatnot, there definitely is my YouTube page. You should feel put in Oddfellow's thoughts. It should lead to just me, but make sure you put in all of Oddfellow's thoughts. Otherwise, you get the Oddfellow Society, which is a whole different thing.
Okay, so there's that. Anything else, Travis?
Nope.
All right. I do highly encourage people to go check out your old videos, or at the very least, check out the videos of the chats that we've done on YouTube on my channel. Those have been fun. And obviously there are a bunch of episodes that Travis did with me. In fact, Travis was instrumental in kickstarting me into doing a more regular release, because episode 4 of the Long Box Review podcast.
4? Okay.
Yeah. Episode 4. Yeah. That was when, just as the news for New 52 was coming out. And we talked a lot about that over the next several episodes. Anyway.
That's a whole other video now. I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, we should talk about that maybe. No. Anyway, thank you, my friend, for agreeing to come back and talk about Hellboy and getting me excited to read more Hellboy. All right. If anybody has any feedback for me regarding this episode, or if you want me to pass along complimentary messages to Travis, you can do so by emailing me at longboxreview@gmail.com. Leave voicemail or text me at 208-953-1841. Or you can also just contact me on the socials, which I hate saying that word, at Longbox Review. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.